Hello again, book lovers. 24 Hours in Ancient Rome, a day in the life of the people who lived there by Matyszak. Well, that's what it says on the tin. It's hour by hour, starting at when the Romans started counting the day, which they called Ora Noctis Sexta, the 6th hour of the night. Midnight to you and me. We get a sort of interweaving, not a story, but a collection of very nicely evoked tableaux, smells and all. As in chapter 1, the watchman handles a complaint. Chapter 2, the carter's in a jam. Then we get the baker, the slave girl, the mother caring for a baby, an imperial messenger, etc., etc. There's 24 of them, logically. All very interesting, I thought. And, considering I've read quite a bit about this period, lots of new stuff for me. As well as being separated into the hours of the day, each section has some very nice relevant original texts and some illustrations, depending on what the subject is. Spoiler alert for mothers caring for sick babies in Rome, the baby's probably going to die. And that particular chapter ends with an inscription to this sweetest, most delightful and pleasing infant. He had not yet learned to talk. His parents, Termalis and Sosipatra, made this memorial for their most delightful boy, Lucius Curius, who lived 6 months and 3 days. There's a lot of pain and sadness in that, which connects us to them. We're a lot better off for infant mortality these days, but we can imagine how it must have felt during the happier courses of the book. By the way, life was hard then, I think. People who read any kind of history of any time prior to the 20th century, and you could even include a lot of that in a lot of places, life was a lot harder than it is for us now. So we have lawyers wrestling with horribly complex legal systems, slaves, of course, running the show, stoking the hot furnaces under the ground where nobody can see them to warm the baths, prostitutes, of course, people who were slaves that were now freed, looking for ways to basically survive. There's a gladiator walking around. There's the parasite, as in the person who gets free dinners. Parasitos, that comes from, by the way, sitting at the side of. So there's one etymology, and I delight in etymologies, and this book included, in a nice seamless way, etymologies for the following words: fornicate, candidate, siesta, noon, immolated, vindicated, and even curry. Very interesting sidelines on the rights of slaves and their businesses. Yes, slaves had businesses and employed slaves in their turn. Page 151 includes the statement why Rome didn't mechanize, and the answer comes in the chapter on the water clock maker, which is a fascinating little chapter, where clocks become status symbols, but a lot of the wealthier Romans say, oh, I'm not having a clock. Why would I have a clock when I've got a slave that could just run outside and tell me the time and then come back in and sweep the floor while he's at it? And among the anecdotes, we get this one of Vespasian, when somebody invented an ingenious crane that would reduce manpower. Vespasian said, nice one, pat on the head, sent him away with some money, but refused to use it, saying, you must allow me to give work to the poor. Another imperial anecdote comes when Hadrian visits the baths, before we move on to Hermogenes, the napkin stealer, and some funny hyperbole from Martial. It turns out I share the priestess of Isis vision of the sea as well. When she uses water, it has to be a certain kind of pure water from a stream. After all, the sea is pretty much an undrinkable dumping ground. And so the priestess casts her spells and the prostitute flaunts her wares, and the carter gets into a ruckus with the passers-by, and life in the big city never sleeps. And we're talking about life in the year 123, and we're talking about life in Rome, and if you want to know what it was like, couldn't do better than this. I thought it was a brilliant little book.